Amen. So, this week has been very interesting for me. An opportunity really to prepare and read through these lots of different sections of Peter's life and seeing what Jesus did through his life. And that has actually been very helpful for me and my personal walk, because sometimes we can think these are simple stories, and we can think when we're preparing it for young people and children, we're simplifying it and making it easier, and then we sit here loftily as adults going, yes, but I can understand the deeper things that kids can't. But actually, there's something so rich about going back to the simplicity of the message, the simplicity of the gospel, and trying to understand and know what that is. I think it would be a really good idea, if you wanted to try and look at a character in the Bible and think, I want to follow them through, see what they do, such as Peter, such as we've done this week. We've started off looking at his life and following its course to see where it ends up and goes to. So we started off as a fisherman and ended up as a disciple and then a church leader, and how he got there. So we can look at his life and see the outcomes of what happens in his life, but we can look at his life and see the outcomes for us as well. What happens in his life can be beneficial for our lives as well. We can look at how he dealt with things, what he saw, what he understood, and see what impact that can make in our lives as well. I want you to think of a good film you've watched, or a good book you've read, or maybe an audio book you've listened to. You read the book, you hear the characters, and you start to form a picture in your mind, don't you? You start to either become that character or start to identify with that character and seeing this world that's being set up around you. And you get a new depth of the story when you do that. It may take a time sometimes when we read. I, for one, do it when I watch a film. It's really interesting. You watch a film and you start to go, oh, yeah, I can identify with some of the things that character's going through. Or, if I was him, I'd do that a lot differently than that. I'm sure we've screamed at the TV going, what are you doing? Don't do that. No, turn around. Something like that. Well, I think we can do that when we look at Peter's life and Peter's journey. We can see the humanity of what's going on. It's not just a story. There's a very easy thing to do, isn't there? When we look at stories from the Bible, we go, that's an interesting story, but we hear it so many times that it just becomes a commonplace story. Maybe we think it's on par and on level with some of the stories of the rest of the world. Maybe we think it's like a Viking saga. It's got a little bit of historical truth in the middle, but it's dressed up all around with fanciful stuff that's not really true and wonderful. But the stories we hear about Peter this week, the stories of what we've seen Jesus do, is real, is true. And I think there was one word, or three words that really jumped out at me when I read through the different stories. It appears in the first story when we look at the fish, and when this massive amount of fish came about into the nets when Jesus told Peter to go out one more time. It happened again, this word happened again later on in the next bit when Jairus goes to get his daughter healed and talks to Jesus. And that little phrase is, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's really fantastic. In Luke 5:10, he says, don't be afraid. Jesus says, don't be afraid. In Mark 5:36, he says, don't be afraid. And in Luke 9:34-35, when the disciples are on the mountain and they're afraid by this glory, this cloud, this what's going on with God appearing, they're fearful and they're worried. But then God speaks to who Jesus is, and that brings them a comfort. Don't be afraid. So these are the things I want to think about this morning, briefly. I want us to think about how that works for us in our lives. Because if we see the story that we've been shown this week, if we see the story of what happens in Peter's life, we should look at it and go, there's a conclusion we should draw from here. We've seen an amazing, powerful, special person in Jesus doing incredible things. What are we going to do with that? Are we just going to look at that and say, that's a fanciful story, that's just myth, that's just nothing really? Or are we going to look at how the people that saw those things, how they dealt with it, how they reacted to it? So when in Luke 5:10, when Peter is there going, oh my goodness, this person is so amazing, look at what he's just done. He's got power over creation. These fish have just appeared at his command, it seems. And then he's standing there and he's saying, get away from me, Lord. Get away from me. I'm no good to be next to you. Look at me in comparison to you. You must be amazing, perfect, great. someone really special, but look at me, I'm no good. But Jesus says, don't be afraid. I'm going to make you something different than what you think you are. I'm going to make you fisher of men. And he follows him. So don't be afraid, and he follows. That's the first thing. Our inadequacies. We can look at our inadequacies, and we can look to Jesus. We can look to how this person looks so amazing and perfect and think, there's no way I can have a relationship with him. There's no way that he would want me. Look at me. I'm nothing. Look at me. But yet, we can follow Jesus, even with all of our inadequacies. There are things that will stop us or bar us from getting to know Jesus, from trying to understand his message, and that shouldn't be one of them. We shouldn't be afraid of who he is. We should know that he's special and amazing, and we can't be like him, no, but we can follow him. And then that's where Mark 5:36 comes in. Believe in Jesus. Jairus was on his knees again, begging to Jesus, please help me. Help my daughter. Help her. She's really, really sick. And Jesus says to him, don't be afraid. Just believe. We just heard it. Don't be afraid. Just believe. Believe me. Believe in the power that I have, that I've shown. And look at what I will do. So that could be another barrier for us. It's a material barrier. The logic of the world. Look at the things we've got. Look at the things we have. It doesn't make sense that you could do anything like this. It doesn't make sense that you could raise someone from the dead, that you could heal this little girl. That doesn't make sense. But Jesus is saying, believe. And then he demonstrates his power. He raises this little girl back to life. He tells her, he just says to her, stand up, sit up, get up. And she's healed. Amazing power. So that should be a barrier to us as well. We shouldn't have a barrier of saying, look at these, it doesn't seem to make sense in logic with the material things we have in this world. We can believe in Jesus. We can follow Jesus. We can believe in Jesus. And then when we come to the mountain, this transfiguration, when Jesus changes, when his face is golden like the sun, bright and brilliant, and he's completely different from the human being that was standing there before, now he's something even more. And the disciples are sitting there going, what? Whoa, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do in this moment. I'm just looking there. And I'm fearful, I'm afraid, because he's so glorious and so brilliant, and rightly so. We should be fearful of that, in a way of saying a right reverence and honour of who Jesus is, the glory of God being revealed. But then what happens? God speaks out from the cloud that surrounded them, and he says, this is my son. Listen to him. He's not an ordinary human being. He's not an ordinary person. He's not some online prophet. He's not some special man with some great wisdom. He's not a guru, a self-help guy who comes along with some bit of great advice. No, this is someone completely different, completely wonderful and magnificent. He's the glorious creator. He knows all things. And he's perfect. So it's important to listen to him. Peter understood this because he saw what happened in his life. He saw his mother get healed by Jesus. He saw these fish come from nowhere through the power of Jesus. He saw a little girl be brought back to life when he watched Jesus. And he followed him around and saw him do many other wonderful things. But he also listened to the things that Jesus said. He listened to all the wise words. He listened to who Jesus said he was and who Jesus said God was. And he wanted to follow and understand more. And the final thing of what we've learnt this week is from John 2:21, 1-19. Jesus forgives and restores. Jesus forgives and restores. You see, as Annette and I said at the beginning, Peter did lots of things wrong. He messed up loads and loads of times. And he said, I'm not going to leave you, Jesus. I would never leave you. You're amazing. Everyone else might run away, but not me. I'm not going to run away. And then what happens? They come to get Jesus. They come to take him. Soldiers take him away. And he runs away like the rest of them. And then when he comes back, he follows them. And he comes to a courtyard. And he's there warming his hands. He wants to see what's going to happen to his Lord. What's going to happen to the one that he does love. And then he gets challenged. You're him, aren't you? You're one of the guys. You're one of the guys that followed him. He says, no, not me, not me. No, you are, you're one of the guys. No, not me. You're one of the guys. It's not me. And then he realises what he's done. He realises what Jesus predicted and said, you're going to do this. You're going to deny me. You may think you won't, but you're going to deny me. And he's broken. He's running away crying. He can't console himself. It's, what have I done? But then look at what Jesus does. He forgives him. He forgives him. Jesus died on the cross and rose from the grave. And he comes back and he talks to Peter and he forgives him. He restores him. He makes him someone different. It's a simple message there. And there's a wonderful simple verse that I think really sums up nicely what he's done for us in Romans 5 verse 8, one of our other memory verses. But God demonstrated his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. This amazing, special, powerful man, who's not just man but also God, fully man, fully God, has done an amazing thing for humanity. He has died and raised again from the dead to save people from their sins, the things that they have done wrong, the things that we have messed up in. It's a simple message. And I think in this world today, a simple message is quite hard sometimes. We're quite a paradox, aren't we, as human beings? We want things to be simple, we want things to be easy. But when something is simple and easy, we go, oh, that's a bit too easy, I don't quite trust that. Oh, no, that's too good to be true, that is. When we get a quote that's too good to be true, like, no, that can't be right, that's too good to be true, we're cynical. And maybe that's slightly a good thing, to test things, to understand things. And I think that's right, we should test things, understand things. And we should test this story, we should look at it. We should look at the story of Jesus through the eyes of Peter and say, what's going on here? Who is he? When we look at autobiographies, when we read someone's life and what they've been going through and what they've done, it seems to be written in their words, but lots of time you have a ghostwriter, don't you? They've talked to someone about their life and they've written it all down for them. And we read these things and we say, yeah, I get that. I follow what's going on in their life. I trust what they're saying. But yet, when we read the Gospels, when we read the books of the New Testament, we don't trust those things when someone's written it down and we go, no, I'm going to be overly sceptical here. I'm not quite sure about this. But actually, why can't we trust this? Why can't we trust what someone has seen through their eyes? We can see the humanity of what Peter's suffered and gone through. It's not just a simple thing of going, everything's great, everything's brilliant. It's not like lots of things in history where the victor is the one that paints a pretty picture and just says all the good things. Now this is a story where bad things happen, there's failure, and I think that's more something that we can trust quite well. So if someone did come along and do the things that Jesus said, or do the things that Jesus did, healed people, cared for people, rose people from the grave, showed love towards people that others wouldn't, outcasts, people that we would think are like, they're no good. Speak wise words to the people of the day, the wise people of the day, and confound them with his wisdom. And then this guy dies a torturous, horrible way, and then comes back to life again. Would that not be worth having a gander, having a look at more about who this person is? Wouldn't that be worth listening to them and hearing what they have to say? Acts 4, verse 12 says this: salvation is found in no one else, for there is no other name under heaven given to mankind by which we must be saved. These are the words that Peter said when he was standing in front of some very important people that had lots of power, that could do some damage to him. Peter has changed a lot from the fisherman that he was. A fisherman that was fearful, a fisherman that would be feeling like he was inadequate, didn't have enough to be someone good and great. He's changed. There's something that's gone on in his life. He's followed Jesus. He's listened to his wisdom. He's seen what he's done. He's loved him. He's devoted himself to him, to follow him. And then, later on in his life, when he's messed up again, he's been forgiven. And now something special has happened. Jesus died on the cross, rose again, and he sent the Holy Spirit to fill his disciples, to fill his followers, so that they could now have the ability to live the life of devotion to God without messing up. And this is the change we see in Peter, of what happens to him. He's no longer someone who's fearful. He is bold. They say in that passage that these are uneducated, unschooled men that are talking to us, Peter and John. But they are bold because they want to stand firm in what they've seen, what they've witnessed, what they know about Jesus, what they know about God, and they're going to tell that with every effort and fibre of their being. What an amazing thing it is. That's the effect of Jesus in his life. That's the effect of the story that we see and can watch. How is it going to affect us? What's the outcome going to be for us? Well, I should say, if we have followers of Jesus now, it should make us think. It should make us think about the simplicity of the story. Do we take it for granted sometimes? Do we overlook it? I've heard it again and again and again. I understand this. And I miss something of the subtle beauty of the story of Jesus, of the gospel. Have I forgotten something here? Do I need to go back and see it through the eyes of a child and see how amazing and special and wonderful Jesus is and how that affects our lives and how we should be bold? We should be encouraged daily to stand up for what we believe. We should be encouraged to live for him. We should be encouraged to, if we love him, to follow him and obey him for what he has told us and said. And maybe you're not quite sure if you do follow Jesus. Maybe you're not quite sure about all of this. Then I would say to you, if you're not sure, then why not read his story? Why not listen to who he was and what he did and find out more about him? Because I think, well, I know, he's done mighty, amazing things. He is wonderful. And he saved me, a sinner that was unclean, and changed me and made me new, just like Peter. And now I can boldly stand here and proclaim his name. So that was our prayer for the young people for this week, that they would come to know who the Lord is and what impact that would have on them. And to know this isn't just a fanciful story, this isn't just a saga, this is real, this is something that happened, and it affected real people. And it can affect us. Let's pray.
Thank you very much, John. I do absolutely love that verse you referenced in Acts chapter 4, when they saw the courage of Peter and John and realised that they were unschooled, ordinary men. They were astonished, and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. So if we walk with Jesus, if we know Jesus living in us, we can do these things too. We've got a song which picks up those themes. Yet not I, but through Christ